Hello, everybody. You know what? When I was a small boy in my hometown, until I believe elementary school, right? Around the age of 13, until my elementary school, when I was a small boy, small, really small, literally small, and in a way, slow. I was never been very outstanding in any area. On top of that, being slow and kind of like a boy, I mean, I was brought up in a very, I was brought up by a very religious, fanatic mom. I think that was the most painful memory of my life. It's a little bit hard to say it loud. And then, anyway, in a way, that really, the religious fanaticism really hit the small boy hard for entire his life, inflicting so much pains, mental pains on him, and then that irrational upbringing led him into being bullied from my childhood. My family was maybe one of the poorest in the town, if not the most poorest, being poverty on top of being poverty, right? And the irrational upbringing really cornered the small boy into the world you never into the dead end world you never be able to escape from the frustration, right? So like in those 70s 80s in Korea, I don't know other countries like to be, but I think in mentality wise it's pretty similar. In those 70s 80s was the kind of the savage time, and those cultures of bullying things among small children also very rebel. It was prevailing. Everybody bully or mock one who looks weak, sounds weak, right? And that time, even my school, the elementary school in my hometown, also completely like overwhelmed that phenomenon, and I was completely bullied all year long to my graduation of the school. Like, the thing is, the reason I was bullied was not because of my physical strength is so weak, or but I was no one behind my back. That was the problem. Even my parents, especially my mom, brought me up, very awkward, strange belief, religious belief. And then she forced me to to be patient and do not fight back to the violence, right? All the time. And then she never asked me who bullied me for what reason, right? When I get beaten and bullied by my friends and back home, crying and back home, she never asked who did it or what reason. Just my mom said, you just be patient and by the love of God, right? All this kind of BS now I believe. And then just you get slapped on your right chin, you just turn your left chin. That kind of teachings, right? My turnaround about myself, about my mental identity change. It came when I entered middle school. I actually declared to myself, I never get bullied anymore. I will not take it anymore. That humiliation and all the mocking things from my old friends, right, from elementary school. And I swore to myself, I never take that again. And then in my middle school days, from the first day or very early periods for several months, that kind of being bullied situation, in called out one by one and to just fight back one by one, literally one by one. And then everybody, especially from my old town elementary school, were very shocked because they never imagined Jacob was that fierce boy. They never imagine about my nature turn into that fierce little beast, right? I literally call out one by one from my old school who bullied me or bullied again. So I just beat them down one by one, take them down one by one. And then, like, my nature, I think, rapidly changed from my middle school, I believe. And then I did a lot of exercise and learn secretly, like, and I a lot of skills about fighting, all and boxing, kind of boxing, wrestling, and all these kind of things, right? And then I train myself very hard every night alone, and like, but still, I even that period, right? I wasn't meant to be mean. I wasn't meant to bully other weak boys. And first time I trained myself, exercise, worked out, everything for myself, for my own defense to protect my dignity. I trained very hard and I applied all the skills and mental strength to those bullies, previous bullies, and I became kind of famous boy, just named Fearless Jacob. Like, you know, the very ironical thing was I didn't feel I wasn't scared at all by being beaten up because I was beaten enough, being bullied in by all the peers, literally all the male peers from my old school, right? So by the time actually I got very used to be being beaten up, and I knew how to get hit to be safe weight, less harmed, less impacted. I know I learned that things naturally by being beaten. That's irony. That's irony. So I became to understand actually being hit or being blown by a fist or kick doesn't really hurt if I were being cautious enough to observe that impact, right? By blow, I know how to absorb them with less impact, right? Less damage. And then I knew the fact actually the impact when you were hit is nothing special. It's not very painful. It's not very like, you know, it's not the thing make you knock out or unconscious. Just kind of, I mean, what most matter was you just feel the fear, like, being threatened, being like mocked, being humiliated. That fear makes you freeze. That was the thing I early understood by the memory of being beaten, being bullied, being humiliated. It was very ironic truth to, it is in a way two ironic things to for a small boy to understand at that age, right? I was the one who understood the nature of the cold truth. And then, so I was not afraid of anything physical, impact, all these kind of things, right? And then I became so fearless, in a way brave, in a way fearless, in a way savage myself. And then that savage time lasted until my high school days. And by the time of high school, I was a kind of boy, pretty famous in the town by the nature of myself, not hesitating to fight back or get into the brawl with your bully peers. And then I became the boy who you never want to mess around, because if you mess around me, you'll get paid off, whatever the way it is. If It's not today, the next day, something like that. You can maybe, if you are a big bully, very big, physically very strong, and like something like that, right? But if you cannot knock me out at your first blow by your first punch, you will get repaid anyway. You will be completely screwed up at the end of the day. If it's not the day, the next day, and the next day, something like that, it lasts until you completely drained off of your physical and mental spirit both. So I was the last boy at the time to mess around. And the thing, what I had done was to call out anybody who bullied from my childhood days to make them apologize to me. And then literally everybody from my old school just apologize me. And like from their heart. Actually, by the time most of them I remember, we became later good friends, and they respect me, my change, right? I also, how to say, been through some time period from middle school and high school, right? Once I became very notable boy in that town, I also I have to admit that the fact I also, very near crossover the point you bullying some other peers, right? I cannot deny the fact I also in the very near cross point of bullying other peers. But I remember, and as my all other friends remember, I was in still good maneuver, the very close line between bullying or being bullied. I and from my heart, I tried really hard not to cross over the line, which I hated myself, trying to be sane. Just don't cross the line. I also tried very hard, I remember.